Welcome to The Uncommon Truth. Today, Bob and I are joined by our guest host, Ryan Hickey from Vancouver, Canada. Ryan is a friend of mine, and I've known for well over almost 2 decades. Ryan's a former university golfer whose focus is now on building a muscular, injury-free body and helping guys get in the best shape of their lives by way of gradual integration of healthy lifestyle habits. He is a certified level 1 precision nutrition coach and currently working towards his level 2 master coach certification. You can find him online at www.deephealthdiscovery.com. Thank you for joining us on today's journey to find the uncommon truth and about nutrition and healthy lifestyles. Ryan, thanks so much for joining us today on The Uncommon Truth.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So, Bob and I have been talking a lot about this over the last several weeks, the importance of us having a healthy body if we really want to have a healthy mind and have a completely balanced lifestyle, which includes balance in our body, our mind, and our spirit. So let's just start by answering the first and the simplest question. What is and how would we best define nutrition? The dictionary says nutrition is the process of providing or obtaining the food necessary for health and growth. We both know that what we eat really helps create the outcomes that we get from our physical activities. But Ryan, how would you define nutrition?
Yeah, so I would define good nutrition as finding a way of eating that works for you to do a number of things, one of which would be control energy balance. So in other words, manage a healthy body weight. It would provide adequate nutrients. It would allow us to look, perform, feel our best. Most importantly, I would say good nutrition it has to be sustainable. So that's something that I'm sure we'll get into down the road in our discussion here, but I think it's one of the most crucial components that is often missing in many of the common current dietary approaches. But it has to be a way in which you can maintain, not just when you're in your optimal environment. So that means it's sustainable when you're on vacation. It's sustainable when you're in an environment with lots of temptation, hyperpalatable foods or other things like that. So good nutrition is also going to promote regular movement. So I think that the dictionary description of it is adequate, but I like to think of what good nutrition is, and that's kind of how I would best summarize it.
I like what you said there, and Bob, I'm curious as your thoughts on this. Our activities, right, really are an important factor to what and how we eat, because you said it, we're fueling the machine based on what the machine is tasked with. So Bob, do you find it affecting you, how you eat and the nutrition you eat and your activities?
Great discussion, gents. Thanks so much, Ryan, for that perspective. I love that your comments about it being sustainable. One of my challenges, because I'm probably the oldest by far in this discussion, I've been an elite athlete with an elite physique and performing at the high level, and did that for about 20 years. But what I found when I hit my 40s, it was a massive shock to my body, and I was not prepared for that. And it got worse, Ryan, when I hit my 50s. And Ryan, I just turned 60. So it's the management. So my challenge is the management over the decades, how my body's been changing, my metabolism been changing, my energy level's been changing. So what I used to do back in my 20s and 30s and early 40s just is not working like it used to, my friend.
That's understandable, Bob, and that's again one of the the biggest struggles that my clients have is the comparison to what used to be achievable, what used to be realistic, and also kind of slipping into what I call the all or nothing mentality. So it's kind of like that, well, if I can't be what I used to be in terms of physique or athletic performance, what's the point? And something we'll get into, I'm sure, in our discussion down the road is a lot of what I do in my coaching is like shifting of the mindset. You would have good awareness, I'm sure, of this in terms of your business acumen and everything. It's everybody seems to be searching for just the right approach, the optimal diet, the optimal workouts, and so forth. And when I talk about the mind shift, it's like shifting from that all or nothing mindset to that always something, celebrating the little tiny successes along the way, which is where I talk about in Heath's intro, the gradual integration of actions or habits or whatever you want to use there, and making sure they stick. So what so many of us do is, especially former high performance athletes like yourself, where you've done grueling 2-hour workouts, maybe even doubles, you've had probably sub 10% body fat, lots of muscle on your body. The concept of doing a 10-minute workout, because that's all your current schedule allows for, is like, what the hell is the point of that? I used to do two-hour workouts in a day type thing. But an interesting concept that I've actually come across recently is the aggregation of marginal gains. So a neat story is this guy who was brought in to help the British cycling team. I won't dive into that because it's quite a long story, but essentially he coined this term, the aggregation of marginal gains. So it's essentially the 1%, even though we don't notice it in the moment, it adds up. So our brains evolved in kind of an immediate outcome environment, and now things have shifted. And so it kind of works against us. If we can connect our brains with a delayed outcome, which most things are, you go to work today to get a paycheck in 2 weeks, you save now to have retirement later, this kind of thing. It's hard to notice that benefit of that 10-minute workout or that single 10-minute walk if you're trying to lose weight and so forth. So I know I'm kind of rambling on that topic, but it's a very, very common thing, especially for high performance athletes who think, what is the point? And when they do get motivated and have that desire to get things back on track with their health, they tend to, one of my biggest jobs as a coach is to like, okay, I love it, but let's reel things in here. And we got to start small. You got to prove to me, show me that you can do this little thing consistently, because consistency, and again, like I said, sustainability of your approach is ultimately the most important thing.
We're really talking, I think, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, Ryan, is over the years, because of all changes, I probably have not adopted enough good habits, right? I've been kind of going back and forth, trying some things here, trying some things there, but in the end, I need more sustainable rituals for like morning, afternoon, and evening. Does that make sense? Is that sort of that's what I'm thinking?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, Bob. And I think you hit the nail on the head there. I heard someone say this the other day, in North America in general, we all know we're in a bit of a obesity or overweight epidemic. We don't have collectively, we don't have a weight loss problem. We have a weight regain problem. So many people are able to lose weight, and unfortunately the way things are marketed and the way that the you know that the current industry sort of caters to is that sexy program. It's like 3 months guaranteed this X amount of weight loss, but they don't really give a shit about, whether it's going to stay off. And that's what happens. People regain because those habits that they, or what they think are habits, or the plan that they follow short term, are not, like you said, those truly integrated habits that become, habitual, right? It's like habits in our minds is essentially the brain's way of hardwiring a shortcut. So the mind will, if you do something enough, the mind will no longer really need to process or work as hard in order to do that habit. And so if it's a all or nothing plan, again, to use that catchphrase, which is what most diet plans are. Here's your meal plan. Here's the workouts you're going to do. You're going to be fasting for X amount of hours a day. You got to drink this much water. It's quite overwhelming. A lot of people lose weight doing that, which is great. But what happens when that plan is over, or you crash and burn because it's unsustainable? People just slip right back to their integrated, truly integrated habits, which ultimately leads to the weight regain.
I think that you've really hit a really key point here, Ryan, on, well, multiple actually. I just want to kind of summarize, which leads us into our next real point. One is mindset. What we're focused on. What is that purpose that we're looking into our nutrition or diet or plan? With that clarity on knowing why we want to do what we do, that's going to give us the fuel and the power to begin the change in those rituals and those habits that we're going to create. But it also even goes into further of the three components of our mindset, not just focus. It's our talk about our food. It's our physiology and the actions that we're taking. And this triad affects us in our mindset. It affects us in our view of ourself and our relationship with food and why we're eating what we're eating. And what I've noticed as my journey as a type 1 diabetic is that if I eat well, my body craves really good food and good fuel, and I perform better, and that cycle begins. When I sit down, watch a movie, and I eat high carbs and I start feasting on chips, it requests more chips. And the next thing I know is my sugars are high, my energy goes low, and I begin this cycle and this spiral of trying to manage my sugar, which is really what it's all about. For a healthy body, or we'll call it a body that's less functional in its systems and processes as a type 1 diabetic, because I am healthy, but it is significant that we control those three things. What we're focused on, our why, the language that we're using, and our self-talk, and then, of course, the physiology and our actions, the tasks we're giving our body to do, because they link, and it perpetually goes into our nutrition and what the body's demanding, how often we're hungry, what we're craving and needing, because the body goes, holy crap, I'm dehydrated, I need water, we get thirsty, and so on and so forth. Would that be a correct statement?
100%. I think you highlighted a really important component there as well, which is you mentioned that everything is integrated, which is so on point, and a lot of, relative to the individual that I'm working with, but a lot of my client exercises and exploration and data gathering revolves around awareness. So like you said, recognizing that you eat this hyper palatable food or sugary food or high carb or whatever it is, and your body seems to crave more. I mean, that's something that on the spectrum of awareness, a lot of people are completely unaware of, and others that identify, know it's there, yet seem to consistently fall back into that cycle and so forth. But even just in my own experience, it's the awareness is such a crucial component to it, and ultimately it's what makes you progress towards that sustainable baseline that is, not optimal, but just this like ability to be consistently adhere to good nutrition in any environment, because you think, if I eat that extra slice of pizza or eat that cake, I know what happens. I'm aware of how I feel. I'm aware of how it affects my mental ability to process things. I'm slower. I'm more lethargic, and all this. So the awareness component and the integration of it all is huge.
So let me just continue on this thought then, because we all know, and the most common thing when nutrition's brought up, it's weight loss, or weight management is a better way of putting it. And I heard a great quote that was given by Steve Maraboli, and it's this: it's all about choice. And his statement is, by choosing healthy over skinny, you are choosing self-love over self-judgment. And that led me to another that I heard that I think is really critical to what we're talking about, is the best way to heal our body, whether we're a high performance athlete, whether it's just ill with a normal bug, a flu, or anything, is through the plate, what we put on our plate. And that kind of segues us into the importance of nutrition for basic health, for growth, and for the healing of our body, whether it's for just the ability as a senior to get up and go for a walk, or for an elite Olympic athlete for them to heal as they're pursuing the highest levels of performance. Nutrition affects us all. So, what are your thoughts, and how important are our choices? And this will lead us to rituals, but our choices over what we put on our plate.
Yeah, that's a good one. So to kind of fall back on the habit side of things, it's relying on sheer discipline and willpower is futile. It's a futile effort, even for the most elite athletes. So our choices really revolve around setting up our environments in such a way, that are going to make the better habits, the good habits, more accessible, easier, more satisfying, and the bad ones more difficult, sort of more layers between that. So if I'm understanding the question correctly, I love what you said, how it all sort of integrates. It's kind of like with a lot of the healing side of things, it's tough to know, everything matters. Recovery, which involves good nutrition, sleep is so crucial. And in some cases, it's difficult to know what came first, the chicken or the egg, in terms of, is it like, we know that research has shown that poor sleep, chronic sleep deprivation, will impact your physiological ability to burn fat, build muscle. Like, it's got such a huge accumulation of negative downsides. And does that, it causes poor nutrition, but does good nutrition improve sleep? Probably. So it's one of those things where, similar to the deep health approach, it's got to be a holistic thing. So if you have someone who's trying to heal, a client who's trying to heal, and their sleep is just garbage, then that's something that we would want to focus on. But again, nutrition plays into that as well. So not sure if I'm answering your question there, but the choices we make it's again, this unfortunate paradigm that so much of what we do is delayed outcomes. So the bad habits seem to be a result of immediate outcomes. This is sweet, this is salty, this tastes good, this relieves my stress in the moment. Unfortunately, has bad long-term outcomes, whereas the good habits and so forth, they generally have kind of either completely unrecognizable short-term outcomes, in some cases even negative short-term outcomes. Like for someone who doesn't work out consistently, goes to the gym, that burn can be actually an uncomfortable experience. And yet finding a way to connect with the long-term benefits and shifting our mindset is essential to healing and just living healthy.
You know,
Ryan, can I just follow that up with a question, Heath?
yeah.
Ryan, excellent comment. One of the things that I thought was most powerful for just us average everyday guys is that you said discipline and willpower are futile efforts. And I would think that people that are struggling with these sort of things are wondering about it and wondering why things aren't changing. That's their go-to, discipline and willpower, and it doesn't work that well. But then you said the second part, which is you have to set up a system that makes you likely to succeed. Can you just expand on that a bit? Does that mean like your shopping lists and your what's in the fridge, and like having a plan when you work out, you're going to eat this and this and this or this or this? Is that what you're talking about, or something else?
100%, Bob, and it's all going to be so. This is why I think I'll be in demand for years to come. Coaching is so contextual and individual. So depending on where the individual's at, what you said is very accurate in terms of the system. So I'm on a big sort of, in case you can't tell, I'm on a big sort of habit kick right now. I'm reading a lot of books on it and so forth. My coaching, that's the foundation of my coaching, really. So I'm a huge habit nerd, so to speak. And someone put it that, I think we've all heard the statement of, what is it? We don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our training or our systems. So again, with the whole discipline, and it's like motivation. Motivation is a desire. It's relying on motivation to get our ass in the gym or to prepare that healthy or make that healthy food choice. It's fleeting, so it comes and goes, and such as is discipline and willpower. So I even made, a post on my social media recently where I'm trying to be open and transparent and sort of empathize more with everybody. And I say, hey, I'm having a crummy day, like where my level of motivation was low. I got my workout in, I did my morning ritual, I meditated, I ate well, had a good sleep. Sometimes the most frustrating pieces are when you can't quite put a finger on what's going wrong. But those would be the days where if I was following some unsustainable crash diet, I would fly off the handles and order 7 large pizzas to my door. If I didn't have my systems in place, right? Thankfully, this is what I do. I've slowly layered on exceptionally healthy habits that I'm always reviewing, trying to pull back and objectively review and improve. But at this point, my workouts, my food prep, my meditation, my mindfulness, all of this stuff is so deeply ingrained into my daily routine that I've got healthy food ready to go in the fridge. So it's easy. I don't have chips or cookies or things that would tempt me in my house all the time. So that's such a big piece of it, right? You have to understand that even and I think Heath and you and I have talked about this before too. It's like the gap between that Olympic athlete that you mentioned and Joe Schmo, it's not that crazy. It's not a huge difference where they will both, like, they would both kind of have that, or should have, ideally, that same level of sustainable eating and lifestyle habits. The Olympic athlete may be, of course, when they're trying to peak for competition, they're going to get way more systematic and down to the minutia as far as their macronutrient breakdown and nutrient timing and all of that. So you can get way more scientific on that, but that is short term for them. So even if you have an MMA athlete who's cutting weight for a fight, or an Olympic athlete who's trying to peak for weightlifting or whatever it may be, all of their very extreme, like what the average person sees as a diet is a short-term approach. They only do it for a short-term period of time because it's unsustainable, and then they ideally fall back to their proper healthy systems.
So I've got a few things I'd like to share about. I think that we've just discussed here about my journey, and as a type 1 diabetic, managing and dealing with weight loss, very, very challenging, as well as the importance of one thing that you just said is that fits right under chance favors a prepared mind. An old adage I used to say when I was a police officer: the best defense is don't be there. Right? So people would always go, oh, heck, this happened, and da. Proximity is a critical success factor. So the best defense in our nutrition: don't buy it. Don't put it in the cupboard and you won't eat it. Buy it, you will. So I think it comes back to expectations as well, back to our mindset. So the rituals are important, but they really start with the plan and your purpose. And I think we set ourselves up for failure when we do our planning by believing the advertising, the lies that I can have 6-pack abs in 3 months. Now, let's just have a quick realistic discussion. It took me probably a decade, some people 20 years, to go from high performance to medium performance down to low performance body. For whatever the reason being, whether it be our mindset, our lifestyle, our career, our job, we're on planes and cars, all the different things. These are valid excuses. But ultimately, those excuses are just choices on our lifestyle. And we're here talking today about healthy lifestyles and the nutritional impact on a healthy lifestyle. So I just hit me. I was at 225. I'm down to 210, and I was very blessed. It took me 2 years. I didn't say 3 months. I said, I need 2 years to do this, and I'm going to have to transform my, let's just call it beer keg, back into a 6-pack. How will that happen? Less consumption, just like the keg talks about and the 6-pack talks about. It's a smaller size. So I basically had to go through and totally revamp my mindset, how I'm focused on it, why I'm doing it, and that why's got to be bigger than my desire for my salty, savory, or sweet treats. Because we all know, as an example, ice cream. We all scream for ice cream. So that is something I think is really first point. Just to summarize that is set realistic goals and timeframes. 3 months is unrealistic. The guy in the magazine with the 6-pack was not me. He never was me, because the abs they're showing you are cut down and below actually healthy body fat, right? They're sub 8 and 5%. That's not healthy or sustainable. Not even for them. I think it's also, you got to realize that if it's easy come, it's easy go, both ways. Les Brown says it so well. If it's easy now, it will be hard later. If it's hard now, it will be easy later. Why? Back to what you've said here and what I'm hearing, and I believe back to the rituals for the results we want. If I want the six-pack, I have to do what the man with the six-pack does. If I want to have the couch potato body, which we've talked about before, that program's simple. Sit on couch, eat chips, eat the potatoes. You will end up looking like that. So that kind of is just an anecdotal, but I really think it comes back to what I heard you say so clearly is the 4 pillars of health. And then I'd like Bob to kind of share his story of, you're talking about an elite athlete in Bob. And I think him and I've talked a lot about this. You can't be elite at anything or have high performance if you don't have self-discipline, if you don't have the rituals. And people that are self-disciplined prepare for that so that they know when they're weak, they have a healthy choice versus not. And I'm rambling a bit, but we need to breathe and focus on the good goals that we're setting. Take those moments to think and visualize it. Breathe. 2, we need to hydrate. Number 1 success for losing weight or being a high performer is drinking water. Liquid is not water. Pop is not water. Coffee is not water. Water. 3 is the nutrition we're talking about, what we're putting on our plate. It's got to be healthy. When you're at the grocery store, it's around the outside of the store. It's not down the aisles. And then 4, we need to do something active and exercise every day so that when we go to bed, we're tired. We'll get a good sleep then. That's my definition. So that leads us into that third question. We've been talking about rituals, but how do we help people if we're not giving them a diet plan? How do we create healthy eating habits without a rigid plan and give ourselves the time to see the results?
It's a good question. Yeah. All that hydration talk makes me want to just dive into my 2-liter here. Necessary, you guys. It's a good question, Heath. And again, it's so individual. It's like, where is that person at? So, and it's where their goals are as well. So I'm the first, when if someone reaches out to me to become a client, we'll do sort of a initial call, and my ultimate goal is to make sure that it's the right fit. And so different people have different goals. I think ultimately when you peel back the layers, we all kind of have similar goals. We want that long-term sustainability, but that's the issue. I mean, if you take, Bob, you as an example, you're an elite athlete. Heath, you said it. If you've been an elite athlete, you have a certain level of innate, natural discipline and focus and willpower. So those can be great assets when embarking on that. Often they can be they can create a bit of ambivalence and resistance to my personal approach, because one of my sort of main objectives, like my mission, so to speak, is sustainability. So if you're looking, I'm say this sort of right up front. It's like, if you're looking to lose X amount of weight by this date, I'm not your guy. I've got a good network of coaches who would be more on that data driven, here are your instructions, follow this, and you will get there. And that's totally fine. My sort of core mission is I want to work with people longer, because it takes longer, because I want it to be sustainable. I want you to leave your time with me able and with the tools to essentially thrive in any environment. So that's a long-winded version of answering your question, Heath, but it really depends on the individual, and it's all about scaling back and starting small. One of my most crucial things that I fall back on constantly is, how is that working for you? So people who have, and again, it's totally, I empathize with it entirely, because the market has dictated this sort of outlook. We've been blasted with marketing of unrealistic expectations. Like you said, the guy on the magazine cover who, you know, peaked for that photo shoot, and it's not a healthy body weight, and he's gonna put on fat afterwards. And these other programs from people who are just trying to make a quick buck and issue unsustainable approaches. We've been sort of promised a false hope, and so I totally get it. But at the end of it, it's like, you have to scale back, and it's show me that you can do this, because most people think, oh, this is too slow, too simple. Show me, prove it. You know, it's like one of those things where, you said it earlier, Bob, it's like your systems of planning ahead. I mean, that's one of my core habits, is like, oh, well, how are we going to get there? Well, I need to eat better. How are you going to eat better? Well, I should probably load my fridge up with more groceries, healthy groceries. Okay, how are you going to do that? Well, I'm going to go shopping this week. When are you going to go shopping? Let me think. Oh, when I have time after work. Okay, what day? Like, making that appointment, getting closer and closer, and having that an integral part. Treat it like this is your business. You know, like, your health is your business. So making that appointment with yourself, reflecting on your week. We do this all for our careers and for our work. So why not start doing it with your nutrition and lifestyle stuff, where you actually make an appointment that pop up on my phone. Now is the time that I meditate. Then I have this meeting, and then I move my body in between meetings. What is that? You know, these kinds of things where you're actually getting super dialed in. And there's a bunch of psychological stuff that's backed by research in there, where how much more likely you are to do something when you actually either write or type it out. You make that statement, at this time, I will do this for this long in this place. That kind of thing has huge power.
Huge.
Love the discussion.
Rant over.
Ryan, thanks. I love the discussion, gentlemen. Thanks so much, Ryan. Excellent comments. You know, I find this quite personally inspirational, this discussion. So I've got a couple of comments. One is, in terms of systems, I just kind of wrote down some numbers here, Ryan. Like, to make sure that you have activity, like you're walking every day, you're moving in between meetings, there's an actual number. If you actually figured out how many times you need to move a day, right? There's an actual number associated with that. Times it by the amount of days in a week, and you got another number. Times it by a month, you got another number. So if you did that with meals, for instance, at 3 meals a day, that's 21 meals a week, 84 meals a month, right? So that's really, I think that's the in-depth planning that might be required for people that are disorganized like me. So I think that just kind of talking to you guys, I've been inspired to actually take action on that meal thing, and really kind of, rather than just going and willy-nilly buy, because I'm in charge of the purchasing in the house, most of it, You can actually sit down with here's a 100 meal plan and get creative with it and actually take control. So thank you very much for that inspiration. But I'd also like you to, both of you guys, to comment on this if you wouldn't mind. One is, I know that in my life, if I have, and this is the individual part, Ryan, if I have personal challenges, if I have a challenge with my primary relationship or challenge with the kids or challenge in business, it's very hard to get that meal plan together, very hard to get the activity plan together. Things interrupt all the time. So, and there's also some kind of mental factor, mental fatigue that goes with that really stops you from moving. And I know Heath and I have both been through this in our lives, right? As you go through life, this is a marathon, right? You're going to have great times and you're going to have challenging times. So maybe you could talk to that. It's like, how do you figure out what the reality is and what are the triggers that are really stopping you? Probably have to fix them in the end, but what can you do in the meantime, maybe, for the big ones? And second is this, the complication of when you're going shopping, when you're planning your meals, there's so much information that's needed about nutrition and carbohydrates versus sucrose versus et cetera, et cetera. It's very confusing out there, but what you're supposed to be putting in to your frame, right? Everyone's individual, I suppose. So two big things, personal challenges and dealing with all that information. Comments, gentlemen.
Go ahead.
You want me to go, Heath?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think my answer, I'll keep it short so you can chime in too, Heath. But Bob, I would say for both of those, simple is better. So like I've said, how I address individual clients, I love that you said, I mean, often it's that option paralysis. Quite often, the last thing clients need is more information. We all know the general concept: eat mostly whole foods, move a little more, eat a little less. It's easy in theory, very difficult to actually apply. So as well as when you're looking at that fatigue that you're talking about from a busy entrepreneur's lifestyle, simple is better. It's looking at what you can peg off in the short term, and even if it's just one meal, like you said, the meal plan, it's like what meal do you tend to fall back on? You can actually gather data and see, well, generally in the evening is when I feel most fatigued. I tend to reach for that beer or that bag of chips or whatever else. So again, relying on the systems that you can start to implement, but starting very simply and just saying, I'm going to try and focus on this one little thing and make that marginal improvement that over time, once it sticks, we're going to add on more, layer on more, and it's the aggregation of marginal gains.
Yeah, 100% agree with you on that end, bud. You know, this has been an absolutely amazing discussion that is, in my mind, something that we're going to have to do again. With your permission, I'd like to already say we're going to have you back on and start to talk a little bit more detailed about the types of foods and the options that we can do for evening snacks, as an example, that give us that sweet craving or that salty craving, but are actually good for us and not going to put us into bed with high sugars that are going to get packed on as fat, or vice versa. What's a great pre-workout that we can do that's using whole foods? Because if you don't fuel the machine, then your workout's not going to be great. So basically you wasted your time in that. So I think, if I may, I'd like to take an opportunity from today's discussion to kind of summarize all this amazing discussion that we've had about the uncommon truth about nutrition and healthy lifestyles. So Bob and all of our viewers know that I am an acronym king. I'm going to say it. I seem to really like to simplify things down and put it into really key points because I forget them otherwise. It also could be that I was an ex-policeman and we all speak in code. So, but the fact is this: we're looking to live our ideal form of life. So what is the ideal way to eat good nutritionally and to have a healthy lifestyle? Well, guys, thank you so much for this amazing discussion we've had today on, nutrition and a healthy lifestyle. I'm pretty big on acronyms, and I really feel that this whole journey is about us all trying to live our ideal form of life with nutrition and having a healthy lifestyle. So, ideal. What does that really mean? First, I. I means I am accountable. I am able to have my healthy lifestyle and reach my nutrition and fitness goals. It's ultimately up to me. I am accountable. And I can do D. And D is to dream. Dream, decide, document, and ultimately define what I want. And that's going to tell me what I'm going to do. That is going to lead to rituals that will drive the results that I want. Now that we have that goal, we need to eliminate. Eliminate everything that prevents us from reaching that goal. Chance favors the prepared mind. When we're in the grocery store, we need to not buy what we know is not good for us. Shop around the outside of the store. That's where all the whole foods are. So anything that's going to prevent us from achieving those goals and that healthy lifestyle needs to be eliminated. And that means even our expectations. We need to make them simple. We need to make them sustainable. This is the stuff that Ryan so eloquently said. It won't work if it's not focused, clear, and simple. A, out of idea, we need to automate the plan. We need to create those healthy habits and rituals. That's going to really help us by being active. Active in our choices, active in our exercise, active in what we are actually putting on our plate, which is going to give us the energy we need to do the activity we need to do, as well as align us with what our goals are. And lastly, we need just to live it. And we need to love the journey and the choices that we've made. Realize that where we've got in 20 years is going to take maybe more time than we think. If it took us 2 years to get back to what we were at 30, I'm in my 50s, to get back to my body of my 30s after 20 years, I think that's a pretty good deal. Let's put it into perspective and love that journey and the choices that I am making. I'm accountable for whatever it is that I've set as my goals. So we need to also learn from our failures. Fail forward. It's okay to have a cheat day. It's okay to celebrate at a birthday party. It's okay. Give ourselves some grace and love ourselves and have a healthy body, not a skinny body. So guys, I'm really encouraging all of you to check out Ryan and see him at www.deephealthdiscovery.com. And for all of us, just realize that this is a journey. And I really want to thank you for journeying with us today. And we welcome you to visit us at www.theuncommontruth.life and find The Uncommon Truth on YouTube, Facebook, and most podcast apps. Thank you again for joining us on this journey, and we will have Ryan back again to dig deeper into the uncommon truth about nutrition and a healthy lifestyle. So until next time, God bless.